What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 1. Oh, man, I screwed it up right at the beginning. 263 of Opinions May Vary. I am your host, JR, my co-host with me, Alex.
Hello.
Joining us this week, a dear friend of the show and purveyor of really cool stuff. I was going to swear, but not this early.
Fine goods.
Fine goods, the finest goods, in our personal opinion. Mr. Israel Skelton.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. Hey, and thanks for the kind words, too.
Hey, man. It's true, and, I gotta say, just last Saturday, I was walking around my living room carrying my Tony Chu bust, hyping it up to a friend of mine, trying to be like, no, see, you can't get this. It's sold out. I backed it on Kickstarter.
It's sold out.
You cannot get this. I have it, and you don't. And look at all the detail in this. But if you don't know who Israel is, he's been on the show twice so far. This is his third appearance. You're going to know who he is in a moment. But he makes really cool stuff, him and his crew, the Skelton crew. And they sell it on the internet. And it's beautiful. And it's focused on a lot of stuff that I'm into. So it's kind of like a win-win for me.
Hey, that's it. That's my rule, man. That's like I have to dig it. If I don't dig it, I'm not your guy. That's the, I keep it pretty simple. Like if I don't dig the property, there's someone else who digs it. They should be the person making this stuff. So, but very fortunate.
For the new listeners who aren't familiar, Israel, can you give like a 30-second summary of how you came to be with what you're doing right now?
Sure. So I've always built stuff, sculpted. I used to be a silver and goldsmith, so I've always kind of worked on tiny stuff, even though I didn't really care for it, doing the jewelry end. But I ended up meeting Joe Hill several years ago, and he asked me to kind of build the ghost key from Lock and Key, which at that time was really early in the series, and we did, and we formed a pretty awesome friendship, and because we're cut from the same cloth, and then it just kind of spiraled from there. I started doing keys for Lock and Key, and then pieces from Mouse Guard, then Hellboy, then Chew, then a bunch of different properties, just kind of from Stuff a Legend, just really awesome independent books,
And what I love about it is how there's so many independent titles that you're a part of, because it shows like that go-getter kind of drive where it's like, I really like this thing. It's not like the most widely known. It's not like it's X-Men where it's almost a household name. It almost has like a niche following, and it's like I want to be part of it. And that's where these items come from. It's like, desire to be like, can I make something cool associated with this thing I'm a big fan of? And It's like, what fan wouldn't want to be doing this?
Yeah, that's really kind of it. That's kind of like my barometer, right? It's like when I read something or I see a property, like, man, I'd really like to build that. It's like even just have for myself. Then I kind of know. That's kind of like well, I'm not alone. Someone else would want that too. So. We could, what if we could make this happen? And that's kind of how we approach it. And then over the years, we've been, because I get so busy, just kind of keeping up with the stuff that we work on. Like, there's a lot of just brilliant books out there that we get approached by, like, hey, we saw the stuff you did for this and this. Would you be interested in doing this? And I'm like, well, let me read it. And it's like, yeah, this is excellent. I'd love to work together. So we got a lot of irons in the fire right now. We got a lot of cool stuff coming up this year. This year's going to be pretty amazing.
Are you allowed to tease what any of those are?
Well, I know that head-lopper teaser is...
Yeah, we got Norgal coming up. Norgal's coming up pretty soon. He should be available to pre-order in about a month.
I can't even describe how excited I am for that. And it looks like it's going to be enormous.
Yeah, it's 9 inches tall. It'll be cool. It'll be cool. Yeah, Andrew loves like that. Andrew loves vinyl, right? Andrew loves kind of those big, Japanese vinyl figures and stuff. kind of when he designed the fig, that Norgal fig, he kind of had that in mind. So I was like, yeah, we can kind of make that happen. I love head-lopping, and I love Norgal. I'd love to do a Norgal mini bust.
Yes.
I would. I'd love to. I mean, I'd love to do. I'd love to do a bunch of Norgal stuff. I think Norgal's just great. I mean, Agatha too. So I mean, yeah. So but we're gonna lead the charge with the Norgal vinyl in two colorways, and the bog blue that he kind of does.
You're killing me, man. I don't have the money for this.
I know. We're doing, but it's just, I love that bog blue that he does. That's like that.
Oh yeah.
Just with those different shades of blue, and we're doing the standard kind of blue kilt, flesh tone, white beard. He's gonna look pretty awesome.
So while we're here on the headlopper figure, Can we ask like what the process is? Like,
Sure.
How do you find like? Do you already have someone in mind to like sculpt out the size of the figure? Does Andrew send you like a character turn for what he wants, and then how do you go about like developing a shape out of that? And then
so like that's really where it kind of starts. So like you need because it's really kind of funny because like comics and toys really kind of don't mesh, right? And they don't speak they don't speak the same language when you think they kind of would.
Yeah.
Like toy colors, work off Pantone, and Pantone is like, I used to work in a printing at a big printing company, and Pantone just becomes your second language, especially when you're dealing with colors. Excuse me, I get a cough. Hold on. So, but you would think where comics are printed that that people working in comics, especially colorists or people who produce, would also kind of speak these same languages, and it doesn't happen. It's really kind of weird, So you're kind of forced to kind of like, okay, overlay the colors and kind of find the right CMYK and the match and everything else. But that's only one part of it. So yeah, so ultimately, when you're a creator, and you have a character and you're working with someone like me, I request turnaround art. I'm like, hey, I want you tell me how you want this to look. And obviously with a vinyl toy like Norgal, with Norgal being a vinyl toy, you have to make some changes to Norgal so he'll be a vinyl toy versus like if you notice in Headlopper how Andrew draws the legs to a nice taper, right? That's great if it's a resin statue, but that's not going to be a vinyl that can stand up,
right?
You know what I'm saying? So you got to kind of make some changes, and whether it's plush or vinyl, whatever you're doing, to kind of make it happen, so but that's kind of it. Yeah, so we get control art, and then we go from there, and then we decide is this gonna be traditionally sculpted or is this gonna be digitally sculpted? The majority of the stuff that we're doing lately is digital. We're things are changing. Things are changing. The industry's changing, and if you don't change with it, then you're left behind, right? So we're doing a lot of digital stuff. We're getting we're just making some beautiful stuff. It's just I'm really happy. I'm really happy, and we're doing some amazing stuff, But we're working with the best sculptors. We're working with some of the best sculptors in the industry. We're working with some of the best printers and prototypers in the industry. We're working with some of the best manufacturers in the industry. And like all that stuff, compounded, the end result is pretty stellar. But yeah, so depending on the piece, we decide, okay, are we going to sculpt this traditionally, or are we going to sculpt this digitally, and then kind of go from there. Then we got to go prototyping, and you try to get all your tweaks hammered out before you go into prototyping, because once you're in prototyping, it gets harder to change and make those tweaks. And sometimes it can be a long process. Everyone has egos. Everyone sculpts. That's it, right? Except for me, I really don't, because it's kind of, if you don't like it, then if you don't think that I hit your lines, then tell me and I'll change them, because that's what it is. I want you to be happy. I want you to be, I want you to think that this is amazing too, and I'm not saying that we've hit every piece out of the park, we haven't, but it's like we try every time,
Right.
But some sculptors can get a little kind of, nose out of joint when it's like you're on your 18th correction, and it's like, well, if you just fix it the first time, we wouldn't be on 18. I mean,
has this happened to you, or is this like just?
Oh yeah, it has, but you roll with it, right? That's kind of it. It's like you can't. This is, and I'm not alone. I'm not alone. This is everybody. I mean, I will say the majority of the sculptors we work with are top notch, amazing, awesome. And it's like, you want to tweak something, they're like, yeah, we're done. And it's done in no time. Other times it's like, hey, that's how it goes. But hey, those are all the lumps of the biz, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. So you kind of roll with it and you kind of deal with it, and that's just it. But yeah, no, I mean, I wouldn't do this if it wasn't a blast.
How would you go from a digital sculpt to a physical thing? Would that be 3D printed, or is there something I don't have any idea?
No, really, kind of that's what it is. So you gotta, anything, it's called up sculpting. So like whatever product that we make through the production process, it's going to shrink, right? So you're gonna have mold reduction. You're gonna have, if it's metal, you're gonna have metal cooling reduction. There's all this stuff. Like, I probably know metal better than most people, right? I just because I've worked with metal for years and years and years and years and years, so I know mold reduction, I know, wax reduction, everything, all the steps in the process. Now with 3D printing, in metal, like, we'll do a physical print and then we'll go into molds, and then we got to get our masters in metal, and those have to be cleaned up, and those got to go back to molds for pre-production, and then yeah, it's a crazy long step. It's like, you could see, even with digital printing, you could have, several sets of molds before you get physical product. That's just how it goes. Because it's cheaper. It's cheaper to actually make a mold and make a casting than it is to digitally print. Everyone thinks, oh, we'll just print off X amount of copies. It's like, yeah, no. That's
Good luck.
Yeah, well, it's so colossally expensive. That's just what it is. It takes up so much time. Especially the level of printers that we're working with. It's like, oh, well, I can build a 3D printer, or I can get a 3D printer for $3,000. Like, yeah, you can, and you can spend the next week and a half cleaning that thing up from all the striations, from the grow lines and that thing. Yep, have fun. It's some of the prototypers that we work with, their machines are $100,000 printers.
Wow.
They're
Good Lord.
Yeah, exactly, right. But they're doing work for Sideshow and Hasbro and everyone else, because they have this great equipment, and they have a great grasp of the process and everything else. What to do, what's going to work, what's not going to work, with all that stuff.
The printers of that quality, I can imagine, like, just trying to get your product into a schedule in there.
Oh yeah.
Like,
that's
we have enough time to fit you in. Like, maybe we could print yours up between 2 and 4 o'clock on Thursday, but.
And it's not even, the prints aren't even that fast. But yeah, that's really kind of it. So when you work with, the leading people in the industry, those leading people are busy, right? So that's kind of what it is. So you do have to jockey for space and understand that. If Sideshow has like their next Hulk statue, that you might get kicked back a little bit. It's happened, but you kind of understand that's like, all right, that's how it is. You try to be clear, like, hey, like, I kind of need this, like in the next couple weeks type of deal.
Excuse me, but Mason Savoy is more important than Thanos, okay? So can you just bump Thanos?
I mean, in my opinion.
Trust me, I think so. Yeah, I know. But it's like, yeah, so Mason was 3D printed. Mason was 3D sculpted, 3D printed. Oh, my God, he is just glorious. I love him. I'm in love with him. He's big. He's thick. his monocle's a separate piece. It's
Ooh.
like so you can see through it.
Oh,
See
that's
through it
cool.
to see the eye. Yeah, right. So I could have cast it. I could have just had it been one of the part of the sculpt, part of the mold, and had it in place, and then, because really, the majority of people are going to look at this thing front on anyway. But it's like, no, let's have it be a separate piece. Have it be, tinted green so you can actually see the eye behind it. Yeah.
It's that detail that I really dig. Like getting the and like this is gonna sound so trivial, I guess, but like I dug it a lot when I got my Tony Chu bust. From the Kickstarter. Like, I'm used to like people with vinyl figures. Sometimes it will be in a cardboard box wrapped in bubble paper, or like some sort of protect. Like I open up my box and there's this like professionally printed like. It's in a box. Like if you bought a figure,
the
like
foam blocker.
Yeah, like it's like in like the regular, like it was like a nice box with Tony on the front, like all four sides, all painted, all that, and then like the foam is specially cut out to fit because he's extending his arm like with the gun. It's not like you snap his arm into place.
And what's funny? Like there's a bunch of stuff like on that, even that box, like that no one even knows. Like, so if you look at like the kind of that watermark that's all over it, like if you look at how the box is folded up, all those watermarks match up. It's like, and it's
now I'm gonna have to go home and dig it out because I save all my boxes.
I know, but it's stuff like that, that it's like our designer is epically amazing. She is phenomenal, and I used to work with her. I mean, at that printing company, we used to be friends. We used to work together, and yeah, but she's just amazing. She's like, so she's like, we can make this so I can wrap. Like, yeah, let's do it. Let's like, why not? Like, there's no question. Like, because it's stuff that she's gonna know it does that, and I'm gonna know. But like, you probably didn't even notice. You didn't even notice that. But just think about how difficult that is to kind of wrap that graphic around on a flap that flips up. So when it closes, everything lines up. Yeah. Right? That's pretty epic. That's pretty amazing.
It's like a puzzle.
And that's all. Yeah, right. And that's all for something that people will never even see. Or they won't even realize they're seeing it. Type of deal. But that's kind of it. It's like if you're gonna do it, I think you need to do it. Right? You can't half-ass it. I guess. If I can say that. But that's kind of I appreciate the kind words, but yeah, that's kind of it. It's like you gotta do it right. We actually and I'm not going too off topic, but just on Twitter yesterday, we had a customer was like, I have Pollo, I have Tony, but I can't justify the cost of Savoy, and I get it, right? Because he's expensive, but it's like I couldn't justify not making him in scale to reach a lower price point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I couldn't not do it right. Right? That's it. That's it. So in doing it right, if because I don't work backwards, right? So that's another thing in the industry. Like people like to step at like, oh, what will someone pay for this type of piece, right? I think their comfort zone is in this range. So then they have that number, and then they work back, right? They work backwards and like, well, okay, well we can't spend any more than on this than tooling, and we can't spend any more on prototyping than this, and then we can't spend any more on sculpting than this. No, and trust me, right? So we've tried that approach with a couple pieces over the years, and every time the piece suffers. Every single time the piece suffers, and it's like, I'm done. I won't do it anymore. No, I don't care. I don't care wherever the price falls. That's where it falls. I'm not working backwards. We're gonna from soup to nuts. It gets sculpted, it gets produced, prototyped, whatever, and then whatever it ends up being, that's what it costs. That's what it is. And I'm not gonna skimp, and I'm not gonna make concessions because it's a little too big, and if I made it a little bit smaller, I'd save 10%. No, I'm not.
Oh, I call that the tattoo theory. Of like, I want to get a tattoo. I want this piece of flash, but I don't want to pay the $80. If we just make it smaller, I can afford the $50. It's like, well, you're getting an inferior piece now, If you're going to get a tattoo, it's going to cost what it costs. So just get something that's going to look great.
That's right. If you're gonna wear this around for the rest of your life, right? That's kind of it. It's like you can't. No, I don't want bargain tattoos.
So often artists hear, yeah, but how about smaller? Then don't get it. Then just don't get it.
Well, that was kind of like my thing. Like years ago, before I started doing this professionally, I used to make prop replicas from like Captain America or Thor, like Mjolnir and stuff like that, and I've always been very kind of like, okay, the Marvel guide says this thing is 2 feet long. Whose art? I'm going to do an amalgam of Simonson's art and Perez art because I think their handle-head ratio really works. I really kind of digest this stuff and like, okay, so this is how big this thing is, and like you really kind of have just an appreciation of like how big Thor is. Like he has a fist like a cantaloupe. Like Thor is a big dude, right? That's why I'm, like in the movies, I'm like, yeah, he needs to be bigger. Like Thor's a big dude. He's not some like underwear model from Australia. Thor's a big dude. And so that was kind of it. And I was talking to George Brewer. He used to head up DC Direct years and years ago. He doesn't do it anymore. But back when they first started, they did props like Green Lantern's power battery and stuff like that. And he and I were talking about possibly working on something. I'm like, and I confess, like, hey man, I'm a scale junkie. Like, you commission me to do the key to the Fortress of Solitude, don't be surprised when a flatbed pulls up. That's just if I'm gonna do it, I want to do it right. I don't want to make a quarter scale or whatever, especially when it's a prop replica. People have asked, like, "Oh, we make the giant key, but just make it small." Like, no, I won't. I've made a couple giant keys. One's at Joe's. I have one. But
for those that don't know, in some versions, Superman's key to the Fortress of Solitude is the length of like 3 train cars.
Yeah, it's huge, right?
It's because only he can lift it and fly it into the lock, and like no one else can do that. And that's why it's made that big.
Yeah, right. So that's kind of it. It's like wouldn't that be epic? And like in your backyard that you had the key, even if it was like just kind of sticking out of the earth, so it was only half the thing. Like that would be pretty darn amazing.
We're not talking about the one from All-Star Superman.
The tiny one.
It's under the doormat.
Yeah.
But it's still like the weight of like a black
like
hole.
1,000 suns or whatever it is. Yeah.
Oh, really? I do haven't even read that.
All-Star Superman, he's got like a regular size key, but it's he was able to like condense some kind of mass, so it's super heavy.
No one would ever be able to lift it except for him.
That's funny. I had no idea. That's kind of cool. I guess that's
Grant Morrison.
A cool twist.
But the one we're talking about,
that's kind of cool.
Read Justice. It's in Justice because the Alex Ross art. There's a good image of him like flying it in, the big giant one. It looks really good.
Yeah. Of course, my reference is all Kurt Swan stuff, old stuff like that. Where he's just kind of, hefting this thing over his head, flying into the slot. It's like, but yeah, that's why I said to George Brewer years ago because years ago, this company called Factory X got the Marvel license to produce prop replicas.
Yeah.
And they only did a handful. They did like Mjolnir, Captain America's shield, Doctor Doom's mask.
I've got the Nick Fury gun right here.
Yeah, right. So I have that Nick Fury gun too.
Yep.
And then it was like, I don't know. Like, so when I see Mjolnir, I'm like, okay, like I'm really curious because at that time I had built a couple of these things. Like, how big is this thing? I want to see it in someone's. Then I see it in person, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, come on, this is a toy. Like, this is a joke. I mean, I don't know. Like, this is. Like it's in the guidebook. Like they don't mince words. It's like 24 inches long. I've seen it as 22 inches long. On one of those collector cards. Right. Those little trading cards. But the majority of the literature says 24 inches long, and like this thing's like barely 17 inches long. It's like no, you work backwards. You decided that. It didn't make sense to make it as big as it should have been because people couldn't and wouldn't pay what they needed to. Right, and that was a call that was made, and that was the decision that was made, and then ultimately what ended up inferior product.
I saw one of those Like I think it was on the Facebook post about Savoy. Someone was like, that price is ridiculous or something. And like, I'm not saying I'm made of money. I'm not. I am not well off. I make money to pay my mortgage, and every now and then I can buy myself a nice thing when I'm not trying to save for a new roof or a new fence.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the woes of home ownership.
Exactly. But as soon as Savoy came out, like I was getting my wallet. It wasn't like it was like, oh God, I gotta. Obviously, I need to get this, but like, man, that's so like. I had no problem with that price. For the size and the detail, like just like the fact that he's holding the ear behind his back, like you didn't have to do that.
He's got Evan Pepper's hand and Evan Pepper's finger on that plate,
And like, but like, if you're a fan of the comics and you're reading the comics, and Savoy's standing next to Tony, he's like a foot taller,
he's enormous,
and he's 3 times as wide. Why would you get a statue that's the same size? Yeah, it would look ridiculous.
Yeah, well, that's kind of it, So it's like, yeah, he's just a big guy. That he's kind of like Hagrid in that, that he's just so wide. He's so wide in comparison to the other characters. He's really not that much taller than Tony. He's so wide and so thick. I mean, he's got these giant hands. Yeah. Like really can like wrap there in. He could palm Tony's head, right? He's got these giant mitts on him, So that was kind of like that was it, right? So you couldn't not do it that way, That you couldn't. I couldn't scale him down. I couldn't. I wouldn't anyway, right? You know. But yeah, there was that one gentleman who on Facebook like, yeah, well, this is too expensive, And then but someone chimed in and was like, hey, because he was like that guy was like, oh, I wish they were more in the $20 range.
I saw that.
Yeah, and the guy was like, "Are you crazy? You know how many they have to produce to get into the $20 range?" And that's really kind of what it is, and that's kind of what I was saying, earlier is that, when you start making these giant, huge runs, and you have to clearance, and you have to wholesale, and you have to do all this crazy stuff, you've made more than really what people want. Yeah. And you're not making collectibles anymore. You're making stuff,
That's
and
the beauty. Kinda, like in collectibles, like when I got the first Chog that you guys made, the pink one, like I think I am definitely bragging here. I think I have number 11.
That's cool.
I think I'm pretty proud of that. And one of the first things I did when I got my Tony, I was like, which number did I get? I can't remember what I got, but
people look, people, I mean, yeah, and that's kind of it. Yeah, it's limited. That's the thing. Is like, I don't want to make more. I don't. The worst thing anyone can do if you work in this industry is make more than what people are willing to pay for full blown retail. Mm-hmm. I'm a firm believer in that. And because really my margins aren't huge. They're not. I don't have a Lamborghini parked in my yard. No. There's no. I don't have a Harley. No. Yeah. My margins aren't giant. And that's the kind of thing. Like when you start to wholesale, so I have to mark up. I have to mark up just to mark down to sell at the demanded, essentially, discounted rate that the only distributor in comics requires.
And then the value of your product's going to go down, and then you're eventually just going to be selling action figures. It's
but action figures. I mean, even McFarlane is like, hey, listen, if it wasn't for the sports action figures and stuff, I wouldn't even be in business.
Really?
The sports figures are what shoulders McFarlane toys.
I had no idea.
Oh yeah, it's not the Spawn. It's not the Spawn fig. and trust me, I love McFarlane stuff. When he his Max figure from years ago. Mm-hmm. I love all that stuff. But it's but he was pretty frank. It was an interview I read a while back. But it's just the comic stuff. There's not enough. There's not enough of a fan base to justify doing it. It's really it's the sports stuff that carries the comic stuff, But that's just.
I mean, I'm not sure what he's putting out now, But when he's on like Series 8 of Spawn, and now is into like the Tech Rioter, and there's 5 Spawns now with motorcycles and they're rad. It's like who's gonna buy a full set of motorcycle Spawn, with all this tech armor on it. But there's sports fans who will buy the entire set of baseball dudes or hockey dudes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they'll get the entire 78 lineup of the Boston Bruins or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Trust me. Part of me is like, what am I doing working in comics? I need to be working in sports replicas or sports memorabilia. Like those guys are ravenous. Like they don't have like. There's no such thing as like limited disposable income with those guys. They'll
true.
like plunk down anything. It's crazy, man. It really is. So no, trust me. I'm like, geez, I'm in the wrong biz.
And we're the ones who get called nerds.
Exactly.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I know, right? But it's like, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, so and I get it, right? Because everyone wants something cool from their favorite book, but they don't want it to break the bank, But when I see Poyo on eBay and he's going for $500, that's kind of like, hey, that's kind of cool, It's like I don't make stuff for the aftermarket, but it's kind of cool to see like the aftermarket kind of lighting up with some pieces,
right.
So we have a discount chain up here. It's called Martin's. And it's like their slogan is "You should have bought it when you saw it at Martin's." And I love to steal that slogan. It's like don't wait, don't think it's going to be around tomorrow because it might not be.
Right.
And it's like you may have to track this down on the bay, and then who knows what you're going to have to pay. But yeah, that's the kind of that's my approach anyway. That's why we kind of base edition size on pre-order. Pre-order is a great barometer. Here's this tells me right now that there are X amount of people who want this thing, So then that's kind of really what we use, as our base number. Okay, we sold, 200 X of these. All right. Well, my min on that piece is X number, and I'm probably going to make a few more because we're going to have rejects, right? So I probably have more rejects than. I don't know. I'm pretty picky. Like I don't want it. If it's not right, I don't want it out there. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I rather destroy it than have it out there. That's kind of my motto. And trust me, there are times it's like, geez, I'm really like, why do I got to be so picky? Because someone's not going to see this. But I just don't want it out there. So we kind of pad. We pad like, okay, we're going to have X amount of percentage of stuff that doesn't meet our standards. Right. So then we place order. The stuff comes in. Sometimes we're wrong. Sometimes like man, these look amazing, and the percentage is a lot smaller. Then we take the balance of those, we put them back up. Like, hey, everything's in, everything's inspected, everything's shipped, and we have 25 more, and here they are, guys. And then they generally get snapped up, pretty quickly. But I'm not in the business of perpetual inventory. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's just not it, because that's really you're tying up money. Sitting on a bunch of statues that I could be making some other cool thing, So that's kind of how I look at it.
When you mentioned the rejects, I'm picturing like an Atari ETS landfill behind your house.
No, you know what? The funny thing is like I save them for some reason. Like they don't ever go anywhere. Like they haven't, but they're in the back and they're in the warehouse and they're just kind of like in their own kind of corner, right? Like these don't get touched for anything, really, because some of them will be a paint defect. Like that really the only way to kind of fix that paint defect is to strip the entire thing and repaint it. And it's like, it's not worth it. It's not worth to kind of go through that hassle just to, sell a piece for $70. You know what I'm saying? So
just
it's like,
wait.
no,
just wait 50 years and then say that it was like, what they do with coins? Like, oh my God, this was a misstamped penny. It's worth $10 million.
Yeah. Just don't even joke about that. I was just looking at that misstamped penny the other day. The 1947 copper penny, because they switched to steel that year because of the war effort.
Yep.
Or 1943. I take that back. And so I'm like, I have like a bunch of wheat pennies like that my father had given me, like different banks. Like, Jesus, I wonder if You know, like, is it worth my time? Because they're in like these old piggy banks that like you better like, unless you want to break them, you got to get like a butter knife, and kind of fit it through the slot, and kind of get the coins out that way. And it's like, is it worth my effort to kind of like not find any of not find any of these coins, that'll set you up for life? But someone's got to have them. They made them. They took those billets and they made them, or planchettes. Planchettes are what a raw coin is called, But they did. They had copper planchettes, and those did get kind of fed through all three mints. All three mints produced copper coins when they switched over to steel. Just kind of blow them out, and then they switched over to the steel penny. So they're out there, right? They're out there.
You do know a lot about metal, Israel. You have validated your claim.
I do. I know more than I should, bro.
I'm like hypnotized right now. That was one of the most interesting things I've ever heard.
Well, just keep your eye out for that darn copper 1943 penny.
I've managed to find A Journey into Mystery that has 2 covers.
What?
Oh, really? That's cool.
It's like Thor's in the cover, and like there's Thor, and you open the cover, and there's the same cover with Thor and everything.
It's probably worth
that's cool.
thousands of dollars.
I hope
that's
we'll
cool.
see.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I know. It's like, comics. It's like, it's so funny because like, a lot of times people will send us comics, especially for working on a property, and like, and sometimes they're like rare variant covers because I'm really not kind of into that. I use them as reference material. So I know like there's someone probably, if they saw like the shop and like these wrinkled up copies, like, oh my God, that's a variant cover. Like, I'm sorry, it's
that's
like,
for work.
It's the workbook. What do you?
It is. It really is. It's kind of like, no, that's my rough. I take measurements off that. I look at people's hand size. That's in someone's hand. Okay, they're 6'1". Their hand's going to be about this big. That's all the stuff. That's all the stuff you use to make this stuff. So yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, comics are tough. It's like, especially when I was collecting years ago. Comics and doing the whole like bagging and boarding, and then looking at spine creases and all the stuff that's just friggin' maddening. It's like, oh my word. I switched over to hardcover graphic novel several years ago, and I haven't looked back.
So speaking of, I guess I got to ask, what are you reading these days?
Well, let's see here. So.
When he has time to read,
yeah, exactly. Probably ask the wife what she's reading. She's reading some Fables right now. I think she's finishing up Fables. Let's see here. I'm not really kind of, aside from there's some stuff like Rafa's eight Outcast. I just got that yesterday, so I want to crack into that, see how that is. It's Rafa's art, so I know it's beautiful, but it looks really amazing. So I'm excited to kind of dig into that. Jason Crow, right now for me, aside from like Descender's really good.
Oh yes, it is.
So there's a bunch of books like Hillbilly. I love Hillbilly. Anything that Eric Powell puts a pen to, I love. I just love his stuff. Same way with any BPRD or Hellboy, type of stuff.
Yep.
Or Baltimore even. It's like I just kind of love. I love what Mike does. So. But yeah, it's hard. I really haven't thought about it just because it's so fleeting, for me to kind of have downtime to crack open a book, You're
too busy making these super detailed and amazing merchandise for those books.
Oh, thanks, man. Well, I try. We're trying hard anyway.
I part of me wants to be like, yo, did you read the new Headlopper that came out 2 weeks? But no, you're too busy designing Headlopper figures.
I've purchased it. I've yet to read it, But that's kind of it. So it's like you kind of amass this stuff. It's like, oh, I got to get to this. Like you want to just stop, and there's like these days where it's like you just die. You're just tired. You're like, oh yeah, I'm just tired. I'm not like I was up late last night working with China. doing all this stuff, and I just want to take a day and just like do nothing, like literally put on sweatpants and read comic books. Like that's all I want to do today, but that doesn't happen. With two little kids, it's like, no, they dictate, it's like, I went into my, the boys are running late this morning. So they were having, Catherine had brought breakfast up to them and up in their bedrooms. Well, my youngest son's bedroom, because he has like this picnic table in there, and this kiddie picnic table that just to play on, it's a play table. But they were eating their breakfast. They had pancakes, so they're eating their breakfast up there. And I walk up, and I'm like, "Oh, what are you guys having? Pancakes?" And he's like, and my 2-year-old's like, "Get out of my room, Daddy." I'm like, "Did you just say get out of my room?" He's like, "Yeah."
Okay.
I'm like, what? Like, get out of my room, Daddy, at 2? I was like, jeez, really?
I guess I'll go to work.
His pancakes are really important to him.
Yeah. Get out of my room, Daddy. I'm like, okay. Well, let's come to an understanding. Whose room is this?
It's your room when you pay the rent.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, with 2 little kids and everything else, and just all the irons we have in the fire, it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to kind of take a break. But I'm amassing a bunch of cool stuff. That one day I'll be like, finally.
Yeah.
In the meantime, the wife is like, "Oh, you got to read this." I'm like, I know I do. It's so good.
I kind of want to back up a bit.
Sure.
So, like, as you were saying, with the secret things about the different items that you create, between like the being able to see through the monocle or the print lining up in the box, how many of these things are something that you come up with and want to implement, or like does the sculptor come up with, or the graphic designer? Like how many ideas are coming together to make this, and just like how do these?
Before I started doing this profession, I used to head up a big distribution area for that large printer I was telling you about. Mm-hmm. So I used to oversee offsite warehouses, and I had a pretty good sized crew, and fulfillment and shipping. Really came in handy. It started as we start shipping product all over the world or importing it. But that's what I did. And I had a pretty big crew. And I've always believed that when you have a crew of people, right, that if everyone's wired the same, if everyone has the same strengths, they also have the same weaknesses. Okay, so really, they all have the same blind spots. So if something happens, then the likelihood of it being caught increases, or missed increases, because everyone's kind of looking in the same direction. But if you have a varied team, right, and everyone brings something different, something different to the table, then you got something really strong, something that really works. And that's kind of how I do this, right? So, we work with, like, you just got to know who you're working with, I guess. But yeah, so when I have a cockamamie idea, sometimes it doesn't make sense, right? And then I need someone to tell me, like, no, you're begging for problems, right? So, and it's like, okay, you're right. I'll be chasing this, and this will be a huge problem throughout the entire production. And other times, there'll be something that's, like the sculptor will be like, hey, it'd be kind of cool if we did this, or we made a cut line here and made this a separate piece, and I'd be like, yeah, that would be cool if we can kind of do it. And like, oh yeah, we can do it. And it's like, all right, well, let's do it. Let's make it happen. Or like, or a paint app. It's like, or the water slide decals. Like we'll take the Huck mini bust we have coming out here pretty soon. Mm-hmm. Like the sculptor Tony Cipriano, who's amazing, who used to work for Disney doing character sculpts for animators, who's done a lot of work for Bowen and Sideshow. He's awesome. And when he sculpted Huck, he put Huck's name in that name badge area, the sewed on patch above his pocket. Yeah. And which is great, but the reality is I know that when we're painting up 300 of those things, that's not going to look that great. Right, I know that that's so small that paint app is gonna be a problem.
Yeah.
All right, and it's gonna look crappy, and then what happens? It gets here, and then we either have to repaint it, and that's really what would happen. We'd have to repaint it. And it's like, no, we're not going to mess with this. It's too problematic. So that little area is a tiny water slide decal, so that'll be slipped into that name badge area, and then it's all stuff like that. Part of it is, just kind of knowing like, yeah, I'll never do that again, or just kind of knowing, like, you kind of know, how something will go together. But yeah, everyone brings something to the table, and anyone who says no, I have all the answers is a liar, quite frankly. Because no, I don't have all the answers. No one does, but if you don't listen to people, then you're just as foolish as the guy who thinks they have all the answers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I always keep my ears open. I always, like, if someone has an idea, or something, we can kind of like embrace it. Let's think about this. Like, can it, can this work? Is this the right way to kind of go? But yeah, no. I think working as a team, is really quite frankly the only way to do it. And I think you get stronger pieces, stronger product, and stronger buy-in from every member of that team if you do it that way. And that the end result is a better piece, and that's just kind of what it is. That's how I look at it anyway.
What made you decide to come up with the Pollo pin for the bonus for Savoya?
Because pins are hot right now. Because everyone
really
loves them. Oh
they
my
really
god,
are.
dude! I'm serious. It's so funny, dude. Because like when I was a kid, and in the early '90s, those pins were all over the place. I had some. Like if you looked in the visor of my car, I had like Wolverine and the Joker, like pinned to the visor of my car, So they were all the thing, and then they went away for years and years and years. They went away and they kind of weren't a thing.
No.
And but now they're back, and they're back quite frankly, it's kind of like I thought they would have been phased out by now.
Really?
I really did.
Oh, from the current comeback?
I did.
Yeah,
from the current comeback, because they came back a couple years back.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, we really started seeing them, and I'm like, okay, well because this is it's like rockabilly, right? It's like, well, really, like, how long can this last? Because this isn't a new sound. This is just a rehash of an old sound.
Yeah.
Type of deal. Like how like really? And then it lingers and sticks around longer than you think it was. Like, oh, okay, well, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was wrong. And now I was wrong about the pins, because I really thought they would have played out. And so like, we're doing pins, and actually we're doing some Skelton Crew pins. They're coming out pretty soon. Just with the classic, the Raven's Head logo, keeping it real simple.
So is this something that like you scout, or you keep your eye out for what other people are selling, or do you just happen to notice like, wow, there's a lot of pins at this convention, or something like that?
Yeah, no. Like I said, I saw them come out a couple years ago, and everyone was like, no joke, everyone raved about them like it was the first time they'd ever seen them. And it was like, what? Like, really? These enamel pins that like literally were everywhere in the friggin' 80s and 90s, and that wasn't the first time. Really, that was probably the 80s and 90s ones that were my first pins. Were the guy who was a generation older than me, like, well, these stupid kids, I think this is the next best thing is a sliced bread. It's kind of like Teen Wolf. It's like there's a generation of people like with the Teen Wolf show, like, oh my god, I love this. Like, not even flashing back to the Michael J. Fox Teen Wolf, who weren't even flashing back to the I was a teenage werewolf, junk of the 60s. Mm-hmm. It's just crazy. Like there's only like 28 ideas out there, man. Complete. That's it. There's only 28. There's like 28 ideas, and it's. And they just constantly get recycled and regurgitated.
And we fall for it every time, just like vinyl records
we
right
do
now.
every single time. So yeah, so the pins are crazy. The pins are, everyone's loving the pins, and it's the rebirth of the enamel pins. So like, all right, hey, if people like enamel pins, then we'll do enamel pins, And quite frankly, I thought about it a couple years back, but I was like, no. By the time I do this, it'll be gone. The fad will be over. There'll be the Beanie Babies or the Furby thing, whatever, the Macarena, for Christ's sake, by the time I get,
The pins will only be popular at weddings.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. The electric slide, Yeah, no, I was completely wrong. These things have held on a lot longer than I thought they would.
Our previous 2 episodes were reviewing PAX East, and they have this whole thing called Penny Arcade, which I've fallen into. And since I got home, I've joined a pin trading website where you trade Penny Arcade pins.
Oh, so, really? That's cool.
Because they'll only trade their Penny Arcades for other Penny Arcade pins.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like their own stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But I've got others too. And I'm excited to get my Poyo. Which
Poyo will be cool.
Which last I checked, I think you said there's
less than 15.
Yeah.
Oh, it's that?
Yeah, it's like 15.
That's an update from last I knew.
Yeah, we're like 15 away from hitting 200. And if we hit 250, then we do the fanboy chog.
Mm-hmm.
Which, so everyone listening, go get your Mason statue so I can get this chog, please.
Yeah, right. So everyone gets that mini fanboy chog. I thought that was kind of cool too. I was like, if we just take the pink chog, throw a black chew t-shirt on him, have him be the ultimate fanboy chog. I thought that would be a freaking pretty hot idea. And they look pretty sweet. We actually have them right now.
Ooh.
So I'm waiting. Well, let's hit 250 on Savoy, and then everyone gets them. Because we're treating it kind of like Kickstarter, but not doing Kickstarter.
Yeah,
right.
So, and it's not like I have an issue with Kickstarter, but I don't know. I kind of feel differently about Kickstarter, and it's like, I don't know.
To be fair, you ran a very successful one. The Tony one was pretty much seamless. Man. I've backed my fair share, and I've seen Kickstarters that are just, every other day, here's an update, we're on track. Oh, we're actually early, here's your thing. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yep. And I've seen Kickstarters I backed 3.5 years ago, and I haven't received my thing yet, and the last update was 8 months ago. I've seen the whole spectrum, and the Tony one was pretty seamless. It was, here's the thing, okay, it's getting made, okay, here's your thing. It was easy.
Yeah, it was. It's different. It's different, because it's I kind of feel like Kickstarter, and this is me. This is just my gut feeling, and trust me. And I abandoned my gut feeling to do Kickstarter because I thought Kickstarter would reach a wide audience, which it did. It did.
Right.
It really kind of reached out to, a lot of people. So in that regard, it was really good. I think Kickstarter is great if you have an idea. Say I just bought my mother one of these. My mother's like, oh, I wouldn't mind having like a little fish tank, but nothing giant, and so they had this thing. It's called Water Farm, I think, or whatever. And it's this little fish tank where you keep a couple of really small, micro fish in there, and you put plants. They have it pumps the water up, and then you plant plants up there. They have like hydroponics, and the roots clean the water and then filter it back down into the tank. So it's like this cyclical system, right? So I get Kickstarter for that, right? So because all that stuff is expensive, like metal tooling and all that stuff to kind of make that thing is so expensive, for an idea that you may be completely into, right? But you don't know if there's enough other people in there to want it to even justify doing this, right? And that's a great idea. Kickstarter is a great barometer to make that happen. So this thing was Kickstarted. Now you can buy it just about anywhere. But originally it was Kickstarted, and I think that's kind of a great format of how Kickstarter can work. Kickstarter for legitimate businesses like myself, I have issue with, right? It's like, because that's business, right? So business is, and trust me, I did it, and it took a lot of me getting talked into doing it to do it. But legitimate business is risk, right? That's kind of what it is. So you either make it or don't based on the decisions you make, right? That's it. It's that simple with business, right? So it doesn't matter how much you love a property or how good a property is. If the property doesn't have a fan base to support the merchandise, then you shouldn't be making that merchandise, right? That's kind of it. That's at the end of the day, that's really kind of it. No matter how much, so you got to kind of find that happy balance where it's like we have worked with our manufacturers so long that we can do really limited runs, versus having to sign off on 1,000 units. 1,000 units on some properties like that, geez, I'm crow. I'd be sitting on that forever, So, but like with Kickstarter, it was kind of like, because it takes the risk out of it. All right. And, yeah, you have to get to the sculpting and prototyping and whatever, but you're in it for, a certain level of money, and then, that's kind of what it is. So it's like, I don't know. It was just weird. It was just, so I have these kind of mixed feelings about Kickstarter, especially for legitimate businesses like myself that use it. But then when I look around and I see all these legitimate businesses using Kickstarter, then I'm like, okay, I'm a fool. Like I have these foolish ideals that I've created, that no one else thinks are a thing. And like, I'm making them a thing. And I'm an idiot, So it's like, then accept the fact, like, no, you're the only one who's overthinking this and making this a thing. Just roll with it, like everyone else is rolling with it, and go, So that was kind of that stigma I had on Kickstarter for legitimate businesses. But when you see legitimate business, over and over and over again use Kickstarter successfully, you're like, okay, then. Clearly, it's a way to reach an untapped part of the market. It really is, and that's what it was for Tony, and and it worked, I guess. But we also had 500 Poyos out in the world. It's like if you already have Poyo, clearly you're a Chew fan. If you're buying the Rooster. If you're buying the Attack Rooster, from Chew, then you're clearly already a Chew fan, so, type of deal. But I don't know. So, but yeah, so I'm not saying it's our last Kickstarter, but I don't know. We kind of ran this one like a Kickstarter almost, where we kind of had here's some early incentives. Here's, hey, if we reach this, here's some like stretch goals, if you will, so. We kind of ran it like a Kickstarter, if you would, but without having all the hassle of that extra layer of Kickstarter,
right?
But I foresee doing that going forward with other pieces.
You get to keep that 6% or 8% or whatever it is.
Yeah, right. And it's not like I said, not like there's a really when you look. I read do you remember this company called Electric Tiki? And they maybe he's still around, but they did a bunch of statues. They did like the Phantom and the Shadow. I really like their stuff. It was kind of stylized a little bit, but they did a lot of pieces. And the owner was kind of like, he sent out this letter, like this newsletter, and it was just very frank about like, hey, there's no money in this game. Like doing statues is like, it's so funny. It was just like, oh my God, like he's so right. It's like, and it was just so funny for him to be so frank with his customer base. And it was like, yeah, he's like and I always say this too, like we're not making Boba Fett, right? So you can put Boba Fett on anything and sell 10,000 units.
Yeah,
that's it. That's the reality. And there's enough Boba Fett stuff out there, for cripe's sake. There really is. So I don't want to make Boba Fett stuff. Really, come on. It's already been done. I rather make cool stuff from properties that, are excellent, that, maybe don't have a giant fan base like Star Wars or whatever, but
can you,
but this guy was kind of like, this is hard. And it's like, it is. And he's just so honest and frank. It was great.
Can you share with us what some of these ideas might be? Like if there's something that you've thought of, like, oh, I would like to make this, but if it's something that you just haven't been able to, or there's no chance of it happening, like what might be on Israel Skelton's like dream list
of stuff that I'd like to make that I don't Like from Star Wars, Star Wars,
whatever,
like that type of
anything
property?
like that, like you haven't made yet, that you won't be breaking out a contract or breaking any secrets or anything.
I would love to tackle anything Goon.
Goon.
I love the Goon. And I know there's been a couple statues, and I have the Frankie and Goon mini bust, on the shelf in the shop. It's just one of those things where it's like I like it, and I have a lot of bone mini busts that have since gotten packed up, just because you don't have the room.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But I do have those ones out, and so I'd love to do something, with Frankie or Buzzard or Dr. Alloy, just kind of those. Just kind of the supporting cast, if you will, because I love the Goon, and I love Hellboy too. Like there's like 1,000 Hellboy statues, and maybe there's just so many, right? And some of them are amazing, like that French statue from a couple years back. That was completely balls out awesome, But yeah, that was just kind of the thing where it's like. What about Kate? What about Manning? And I think of like I'd kind of like to dig this stuff, but it's like, okay, am I getting so obscure that, that this doesn't make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I want a Kate figure or a Kate mini bust, but like me and like 4 other people want this thing.
I mean,
that's kind of like
there's already some obscure stuff out there, even with like the big 2 stuff. Like looking at my local comic shop, I'll be like, who is this? This is man with black hair and with a shirt with a star on it. I don't know who this is.
That big 2 stuff is like, but you got these characters, and it's like, okay, it's like they've made 10,000 Spider-Man statues.
Yeah,
it's just
right.
ridiculous, So, but it's like, with DC Direct, especially in comic shops like that, like the DC Direct figures all get rolled right into your comic discount.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
you throw in a couple DC statues, even if it's like seventh tier character, Starman 7 or whatever, Earth 2, Earth 8 Starman.
Yeah.
That it goes against your discount, right? So you can then, get your books at a higher discount, so it goes against your total spend.
I kind of dig some of the more obscure stuff. Well, I like a lot of obscure stuff, but I do appreciate some of the stuff they would put out. Where like if someone who only has seen like the Batman movies, and the Superman movie, and they go into a shop and they say, "What's this purple box thing?" And I'm like, "That's a mother box. It's Scott Free. It's Mr.
Obviously,
McFee's."
Yeah.
And like,
Did they make a mother box?
They did.
No.
Yeah.
Not like not Kirby mother box.
It might be a more recent one, like a more modern version. And like,
really? They made a mother box replica?
yeah.
I gotta look this up.
Like it's not
Well,
like it's made of metal or anything. Like it's plastic and it kind of lights up. I don't remember if it does anything else.
I
But-
don't know. I always wanted to build one.
It was-
It's just one of those things where it's like. But if it's that's the thing. If it's from some new arc, and it doesn't look Kirby, because it has to look Kirby to me. It kind of has to look like tangible Kirby if you're going to do the mother box.
I'd have to
right.
see him in front of me to get a good comparison. But it was one of those things where it's like, I think I want to own this, but I don't know if I'll find it on sale somewhere else, or like, will I come across that at a flea market sometime? Like maybe I could stall.
Yeah. So I hear you, right? So that's kind of the thing, right? So that's kind of the thing when you start making stuff and doing these high, really large production runs, then I don't know. That's just not the game I want to play. I guess that's kind of I want a good, like, okay, I have 200 people that are interested in this thing, or 250 people are interested in this thing. We're going to make this many, and that's what it is. It's just and we're going to move on. We're going to move on to the next cool thing. I don't want, here's the thing. Like, I don't think like anything would be worse than going into a comic shop and seeing a piece that you did 5 years ago with a bunch of dust on it with a clearance sticker on it. I think that would feel like complete crap.
Yeah.
I think it would. To me, to like, oh, geez, like no one wants that thing. You know, it's like I don't know. That's just kind of how I would feel. I don't think I'd feel like, well, screw it. Hey, I got my money. They can do whatever. You know, I wouldn't feel that way. I'd feel like, ugh. I'd feel weird about it. So I'd rather do it this way. I'd rather sell direct. You know, like I said, you know, like we're DC Direct if DC Direct was actually direct. You know? I mean, you know, that's kind of how I look at it.
For the late crowd, you can check out if you were looking to take a look at Mason. If you wanted to help get up to 250, so I can get my damn chog, head over to SkeltonCrewStudio.com. And take a look. You can pre-order the Mason. There's fewer, according to the website here, fewer than 15 left until you can't get the pin no more.
Yeah, exactly. Till the pin goes away, and then the pin's no longer. You know, I mean, and then really we're kind of in that sweet zone. Like, okay, so you know, let's get to 250. Then everyone gets the chog, that mini vinyl chog, you know, which is pretty sweet. You know, so, and I love doing those mini vinyl chogs. I love those guys. You know, I have a whole slew of other designs for another release. Yeah. You know, so of those maybe down the road.
Oh, my wallet is already crying.
I know. I love those little mini vinyl. I really do. You know, but it's like we got a bunch of stuff. We got a bunch of cool things in the works, and we just got. We got a bunch of stuff that we're just gonna, you know, and we do a pretty good job trying to share early. Like, here's conceptual sketches, here's prototype pics, here's that stuff. But sometimes I just want to drop a bomb on somebody. Like, I don't want to share anything until it's a thing, right? Yeah. You know, it's like, here it is, bam, and people will just like right out of left field, like, oh my god, like where did this even come from? Like, I kind of want to do that. You know, and I don't know, and the wife is kind of very anti that. She's like, no, I like, people like seeing progress shots and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, but one time I just want to keep everything under wraps, you know, until it's done, you know, until it's ready, you know, and then it's like, bam, up for pre-order now.
I say do it, because
I do too, right?
Yeah, those have a pretty good impact. Like,
I think so too, because people don't want to wait for stuff. They're like, by the time they see the sketch and then the prototype, it's like it's like the want or desire has kind of faded, you know, for some people. Right. You know, it's not like you're building anticipation; you're kind of losing anticipation. Yeah, you know, well, almost.
It's like you know, how long did we have to look at set photos of Rogue One? You know, and hear all the stories and backstage stuff. And then, like, it's like, oh, yeah, 10 Cloverfield Lane comes out in 2 weeks. Surprise. Yeah. It's like, which of these two things, you know.
What's the movie about? Who knows?
Are you going to
go see it?
I don't know. Yeah, but I don't know. Like, what works? Well, you know, I would think just kind of, especially, it's not like if it's it'd be one thing if I was like, I had my own kind of vinyl toy line that I was launching or whatever, and I was like, bam, here's like this thing that no one knows about. But we're talking something from an established property, right? There's already a fan base for this property. There's already, you know, that's already out there. You know, maybe secretly people have like, you know, like, oh, I wish they would make something, you know, to do from this property, you know, and then all of a sudden, bam, there it is. You know, come get it.
Israel, I gotta say, it is always a pleasure talking to you. I really sadly, we do have to end.
No, man, I appreciate you guys having me.
It is always. I think, was it last Boston?
Yeah,
we bumped. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Twice.
Total pleasure. Just one of the most genuine stand-up people we've met and had the pleasure of meeting because of this show. So I gotta say thanks again for not only being really cool coming on the show, and also just for making really neat stuff that I can spend my money on.
Hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. You know, no, I don't blow smoke. You know, that's kind of true. It. You know, I don't, and it's to a fault sometimes. You know, but that's what you know what you get. That's what it is. It's like there's no surprises there, you know. But no, I appreciate it, definitely, guys.
Absolutely, man. I can't wait to see what comes out next. I mean, you've already got us at least one sale with the headlopper figure. Damn it! So
wait to see our itty bitty Hellboy mini bust. That's gonna be pretty rocking.
Yep. So there's more money.
Oh yeah, we get some cool stuff.
All right, so I gotta say thank you again. Absolute pleasure as always, Israel. Just thank you so much for making time for us. Best of luck in the future. Can't wait to see what you and the crew come out with next. It's always a pleasure talking to you, man.
Oh, thanks, guys. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, so that is going to do it for this week. Until next time, I have been JR.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Israel.
And this has been episode 263 of Opinions May Vary.